Hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of our online web series on SPSS for beginners. Today we are going to discuss about regression analysis. There are two things that we will see in this video. Firstly, we will look at what is regression analysis, and secondly, we will perform regression analysis using SPSS. So what is regression analysis? Regression analysis is a set of statistical processes that helps us study the relationship between variables. If you have seen our last video on correlation analysis, we mentioned that correlation analysis is the study of degree of relationship between two continuous variables. Okay, regression analysis basically tells us how one variable impacts the other variable. So essentially, regression analysis is a causal analysis technique, and it tells us how the dependent variable changes with the change in the independent variable. Let us pictorially try to understand regression analysis. Let us say that there are two variables x and y. Okay, when we say we are performing regression analysis, essentially what we are trying to do is we are trying to fit a straight line that passes through these points. Now you may say that there can be a lot of such lines that can pass through these points. How do we identify the best one? For that, let us first try to understand the concept of error term. So error term is basically the difference between the observed value and the predicted value. And when we are performing regression analysis, we are essentially trying to find that line that gives us the minimum sum of squares of residual error terms. Okay, so we are trying to minimize the sum of squares of these residual terms. So whichever line gives us the minimum sum of squares of residual error term, we'll take that as our regression line. Now let us consider an example. From our video on correlation analysis, if you remember, we conducted a survey where we had the information on the gender, experience and income level of 100 employees of an organization. So we are going to use the same data set for explaining the concept of regression analysis. So here there are two interesting questions that we want to get an answer to from the data that we have collected. Firstly, we want to understand how experience impacts income of an employee. Or we can say that we want to understand how the income of an employee changes with 1 unit increase in his or her experience level. This is the first question. Secondly, we will try to see how gender and experience together they impact the income of an employee. Okay, so here what we will do is we will try to understand how different is the income of a male employee compared to a female employee, same level of experience. Okay, so if both male and female employees have same experience, what is the difference in their income level? Okay, so this is the second question. In order to get an answer to these questions, let us perform statistical analysis using SPSS. So the first question, basically if we translate into statistical term, we are trying to identify income as a function of experience. And for the second question, we are trying to identify income as a function of experience and gender. Okay, now let us proceed and estimate these two functions using SPSS. So here we have our data set. We have three variables in this data set. We have the gender of the employee, we have the experience, and we have the income. Income is in thousands of dollars, experience is in years. So we are going to perform regression analysis on this data set. Before we move ahead with the regression analysis, let us first try to visually understand the patterns in the data set. For that, what we will do is we will go to graphs, we will go to chart builder. Now we will go to scatter and dot plot and drag and drop it here. Next, we will move experience on the x-axis and income on the y-axis. And then we will click on OK. You can see that we find a linear pattern. Okay, here if we want to get a more clearer picture, what we will do is again we will go to chart builder, and instead of values we will take mean values. Okay, so for a particular experience level, the values of the income will be averaged out. So we'll get average value for each experience level. We can see that there is a positive linear relationship between the two variables. As the experience increases, the average income also increases. So this is the first graph. Now let us see how the income varies across the two gender group. For that, we will go to graphs, chart builder, and we will reset it. Then we will go to the bar chart option, drag and drop it here. Then we will move gender on the x-axis and we will move income on the y-axis. So what we observe here is that females in this organization have comparatively higher average income than the male employees. Okay, so we have identified these two patterns, that there is a linear relationship between the income and the experience, and females have a comparatively higher income than the male employees. Next, let us go ahead and perform the regression analysis with two variables, the income variable as the dependent variable and experience as the independent variable. So we go to analyze, we go to regression and we select linear regression. We have observed that income and experience have got a linear relationship. So we'll move income as the dependent variable and experience as the independent variable. There are a couple of options over here. So we click on the first option here, statistics, and we want to see the model fit and the estimates. In the plots option, we have these options over here. So for the time being, we just leave them. We can save the predicted values and the residual error terms if we want to. And generally, when you are testing the assumptions of a regression analysis, you want to save a couple of these options here. We will create a different series for regression analysis where we will explain you how you can test the assumptions of linear regression analysis. So for the time being, we will leave it as it is and then just click on OK. So here are the results. Now let us interpret each table and try to understand what the numbers in that table represent. The first value R is the correlation coefficient between the two variables. So if you have checked our earlier video on correlation analysis, so the correlation coefficient between income and experience was 0.661 and we get the same value over here. Next value is the R square, which as the name suggests is the square of the R value or the correlation coefficient value. Okay, so we observe here that this value is 0.437 and this value basically gives you an indication about the variability that the variable experience is able to cover in income variable. Okay, so we see that around 43% of the variation in income can be explained using the variable experience. Next is the standard error of the estimate. This value tells you on an average how much variation in the value of the income you can expect. So there is a variation of around 12,000 USDs at any particular level. This is the variation in the income you can expect. Okay. Next is the ANOVA table. Here you can see that the significance value is less than 0.05. This indicates that the model is significant or the variable experience is significant in explaining the variation in income values. So now let us look at the coefficients table. Here we can see that a person with zero experience will earn $796. So this is the constant value which represents the income of a person with 0 years of experience. And then the coefficient for the experience variable is 2.324, which means that with 1 year increase in experience, his salary will increase or his income will increase by $2,324. Now let us bring the gender variable into our model and see how the results will change. So we go to again linear regression. We can click on this icon over here, which will open the recently used dialog boxes. So we can see linear regression over here. Click on this and then we just move gender as one of our independent variables. We click on OK. Now we can see that R square value is 0.712. Okay, so there is a improvement in the correlation coefficient. First thing. Secondly, the R square value has also increased. So from the earlier value of 0.437, now the value has increased to 0.507, which means that 50.7% of the variation in income can now be explained using these two variables, gender and experience. Next, we can see that in the ANOVA table, the F test is significant, which shows that these two variables significantly explain the variation in income. Lastly, let us have a look at the coefficients table. We can see that the regression coefficient for the gender of employee variable is 8.544. This suggests that female employees in this organization earn on an average $8,544 more than the male employees given the same level of experience. Okay, and again we can see here that with every unit increase in the experience level of the individual, his or her income level will go up by $2,414. Okay, so this is how you run a regression analysis, and this is how you interpret the coefficients. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this video informative, please like, comment, share and subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you have any specific queries for us, please email us on admin@pytutors.com, or you can visit us on our website www.pytutors.com, or you can send us a message on our WhatsApp number.